Hi, everyone. It's Jennifer and Danushki, and we have our next Her Data Learns today. Danushki, do you want to introduce our guest?
Yes, of course. So today we have Ghafar Shah. You can call him Jafar if it makes it cooler. Just kidding. So Ghafar is, I really don't have to introduce him. He is such a prominent figure in the Tableau community. He was a featured author last year, 2020. And he got the biggest growth at the Vizzy Awards last year. He has 2 Viz of the Days. He's also doing his master's in business analytics at St. Joe's University. And if you haven't checked out his public profile, you absolutely have to, because he has such a unique, wonderful design style that we are about to learn so much more about today.
Yes, very excited. Thank you again so much for joining us, and we'll kick it away to you if you want to introduce your topic today. We're very excited.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Danushki and Jennifer, for having you on Her Data. I'm really excited, and there's so much awesome content that I want to talk about Figma. So in the past few months, I've used Figma for most of my dashboards, and I really love using Figma as my design tool to enhance my data visualizations. Now, I'm definitely no expert in Figma, but I do want to share the basics and some tips I've picked up along the way that I use for my Tableau visits. So on this next slide,
I would like to say that a lot of people in the community have started using Figma these days, and I feel like it's such a cool way to enhance your visualization, especially with Iron Viz coming up. This could be a great opportunity to kind of, learn another tool to enhance your dashboards.
And I did try to go this alone, and did not do so well. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, here are a couple of my Tableau dashboards I've created using Figma. Some of these you might be familiar with. So the Netflix one is a collaboration viz that Danushki and I worked on, and it recently got Viz of the Day. Another one is The Boys Viz, which is an awesome show on Amazon Prime. I highly recommend checking out the show if you haven't already. I also created a Christmas shopping viz on the far right, and that one was actually my first Tableau Viz of the Day, which is really cool. These are only a few of my favorite vizzes, and I probably love them so much because I use Figma for the design aspect of it. So here's a list of Figma topics that I'll go through, and I'll actually share a demo making a very simple business dashboard in Figma and applying these topics. So I wanted to go over the topics that I usually work with for my Tableau vizzes, like setting up a dashboard layout, applying a fill color, gradient, images, adding a drop shadow, inner shadow effect, adding a stroke effect, how to add a round border edge, and touching on neomorphism. And then finally, we're going to export the dashboard as an image to put into Tableau. Cool. So here's a dashboard we'll be creating in Figma. It's a very simple Net Promoter Score dashboard I mocked up using fake NPS data. I'll be following all the Figma requirements I put together over to the right. I know it looks like a lot, but it's really easy once we get into it. And before we do jump into Figma, I want to show you the 3 different Figma editions and pricing on the next slide. So currently, over to the left, I'm using the free starter edition, which only lets us create 1 project and 3 design files within that project. I'll talk more about how that setup works in Figma in just a second, but I absolutely love the free edition. Then the professional and organization editions are something you would have to pay for, but you'll get to make an unlimited number of projects and designs if you were to go with the professional and organization editions. So that's it for this slide. So I'll jump right into Figma.
Woohoo!
So here's what Figma looks like after you've created a free starter edition. Now you can download the Figma app or just have it open as a browser. The browser and the app are both the same. It really comes down to your preference, but I always use a web browser in Google Chrome. The first thing I want to show you is that over to the left, I've created a team next to this orange icon that says Tableau team. And within this team, we have a project, right? A new project called Tableau project. So remember when I mentioned earlier that we can create 1 project in a free starter version. Now, if I try to create a new project, so Tableau team, this little plus sign, if I click on this plus sign, new project, I get prompted to upgrade to the professional edition. And that's because we're currently using the free edition, which only lets us create one project. So in this project, right, we can have a maximum of 3 design files. So we have design file 1, design file 2, design file 3. Now you're probably wondering, okay, Ghafar, if we can only create 3 design files, and how can we make more than 3 dashboards in Figma? So
That's exactly what I was wondering.
Yeah, I'm like, how do you do this? I'm even more impressed now.
I'll show you a trick that I learned to add more dashboards in a design file during the demo. So let's go ahead and click on design file 1. So
I like the tease, because then you have to stay tuned and pay attention to know the trick.
So here's what a blank design template looks like. Over to the right, we have our design tab where you can make all sorts of edits to the shapes. Right now, you can only see background as an option, and that's because we haven't added any shapes to this design file yet. But once we do add a shape, you'll start to see more design edit options. There's also an export option at the bottom right here where you can export your work as an image and choose between PNG, JPEG, SVG, and PDF. You can also choose your resolution type. By default, it's always 1x, but you can change it to 1.5x, 2.2x, 3x if you want higher resolution images. Now, I usually go with 1x for my Tableau visits. It's kind of hard for me. It's hard to see the difference between 1x and 2x. So, but it's totally your choice. So here at the top left, you'll see a couple of icons, right? The one I want to show you is a grid icon. So if I click on this grid icon, you get 2 options, frame and slice. And if you click on frame, over to the right, you'll see something that happens. So we see a bunch of different frames. We see phones, tablets, desktops, presentation, watch, paper. Now, I usually go with desktop whenever I'm making a Tableau dashboard. So if I click on desktop, under desktop, there's like more options. So desktop, MacBook, MacBook Pro, Surface Book Pro, and iMac. So for the purpose of this demo, let's just go with desktop. So if I click on desktop, then what it does is that it really just adds a frame to your design file. So think of adding a frame, right, as your dashboard layout. And think of it as a shape tool. So it's your dashboard layout and it's also a shape. Now I can rename this frame to whatever I want. So over to the left, you see how it says by default desktop 1? I can rename this to, let's call it NPS dashboard frame. And now we call this a frame, this dashboard layout, a NPS dashboard frame. So, and that's pretty much how you set up a dashboard frame. You can also change the frame, the color of the frame, to anything you want. You can change it under fill. You can change it to any color, any color that you want to choose. There's like a bunch of different colors that you can choose from. So let's just keep it at white for now. And let's change the design of this file back to light gray, a little bit of light gray. The reason why I'm changing the design file to light gray is so that we can actually see this dashboard frame because it's white. So let's go ahead and jump right into the Figma requirements. So let me go back to the slide with all the Figma requirements. So we just added our dashboard frame 1, right? And the dimension is 900 width and 1000 height. So to change the dimension of this frame, over to the right, we see the option width and height. So just change width to 900 and change the height to 1000.
Would that be what your dashboard size is?
Yeah, so
okay.
I'm going to get to that. So the dashboard size is actually 1200 by 1200 for this demo. So basically in this image on the slide, there's 2 dashboard frames, right? The outer frame is the gradient style that you see here.
Okay.
And then the inner frame is the white frame that we just added. So here, let me show you.
I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. I see what you're doing. Okay.
Hold on, Jennifer.
I'm sorry.
So we can change. So let's go ahead and change the corner radius of this dashboard frame. So to do that, over to the right, under frame, you see that there's like an option. If I hover over it, it says corner radius. We can change it to 50. So what that does is that if I zoom in up on this frame, it gives it that really nice rounded edge, right? I can change it from 50 to 100 if I wanted to. I can even go 500 or 5,000. But
That's just getting
in this
crazy.
case, let's just go with 50. And then, so now we want to add in that really nice gradient, like the outer frame. So to do that, all we need to do is just at the top left, go back to that grid icon I showed you, click frame, and then drag the frame over your inner frame, the MPS dashboard frame. So there we go. So don't think it's not overlapping. So it's actually still there. It's just colored white. So what we're going to do is we're just going to click on the outer frame and then apply that gradient style. And to do that, over to the right, under fill, click on the color. Right now we have solid selected. Change the solid to a linear. So
Hey.
once we change the solid to a linear, then at the top, you notice these little two boxes. You can add another box and you can add another box. You can add how many number of boxes that you want. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to mirror what this color gradient style is. So it's like purple, pink, reddish, and then blue.
Someone was looking to create a rainbow gradient recently.
Hello, where were you a few weeks ago?
I
I was like, you're gonna pull it in as an image, right? I was waiting for that, and then you're like, oh, we're gonna go ahead and create our gradient in here. So that's cool.
That's awesome.
And then click on each individual boxes. So the first one was, I think this is like a purple pink. And then the second one, let's go with, I don't know, like a red.
Can you type
this-
in? Sorry, can you type
Yeah,
in
yeah.
text codes?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can. I think you can type it. So if you have the RGB, you can type that in, or
Okay.
and then you can choose hex 2.
Nice.
Hey. Okay.
CSS, I don't know what those other things are.
They only need hex code and RGB. Who cares?
And let's change up the third box to a, let's say, I don't know, a blue. Yeah, let's go with the blue. Now you can change the opacity of this color. So at the bottom, you notice how I can drag this over to the left and to the right. It just increases the opacity. So so the RGB right now is set to 100. You can also change it to like 75% if you wanted to. Well, let's go with 100 for now. I think that's fine. And then the slacks box, let's just change it to like a yellow.
Oh, how pretty.
And there we go. We have our really awesome gradient viz right behind the like the main MPS dashboard frame. So let's do this, right? We have it called frame 1 and it's kind of confusing. Let's just call it, double click on this outer frame. Let's call it MPS outer frame. So we're not confused. So MPS outer frame, and then the inner frame will be this rounded square frame that we added earlier. So let's just call that MPS inner frame.
I feel like every time we do one of these, people are telling us that we should label stuff in like, don't do Calc 1, you should label your layers. I feel like everyone in the world of data fam is trying to tell me and Danushki to start labeling stuff.
Yeah.
Will do. Okay.
And then the next thing is to add in those 3 KPI boxes with the drop shadow effect. So let's go ahead and do that. So to add in those 3 KPIs, all you need to do is at the top left, click on the shape tools, select rectangle, and then draw a rectangle over on top of the inner frame, like that. So let's
Is
zoom
there
in.
any easy way to center the white box?
Yes. So I think if you can just drag it over. Sometimes it has that really nice line that like it just shows you that's centered. Another way to do that, let's see.
No, actually that's perfect because it like snaps into place.
There's also a layout grid option. If you click on that, then well, this only shows it for the inner frame. If you click the outer frame, let's go ahead and click on the outer frame. You can add that layout grid option, and it's kind of hard to see because we have the gradient, right? But I think you can change it. I don't want to go spend too much time on the layout grid option.
Sorry.
So
way to jump ahead, Danushki.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
but if now that we have our first KPI, let's go ahead and see what the requirements are. So the dimensions 200 width and 200 height. So at the top right, let's just change the width to 200 and the height to 200. And then the color fill is like a light gray. So it's F2, F2, F2. So we have our hex, right? So our hex code will be, so under fill for this KP, for this box, change it to F2, F2, F2. So it's like a nice light gray. Okay, so this part's really important. So adding in that drop shadow effect. So here on this slide, you notice how it says X equals 4, Y equals 4, and then blur equals 8. So the reason why we have a positive value of 4 for both X and Y is because it's the direction of the drop shadow. So you notice on this slide how the drop shadow is over to the right and then at the bottom. So if you wanted to apply the drop shadow effect around the entire shape, you would have to add 2 drop shadow effects. That would be -4 for both X and Y, and then +4 for X and Y. So let me show you. So if I have the square selected, over to the right, there's an option that says effects. So click on this plus sign and it adds in a drop shadow effect. Now there's like other options too. There's inner shadow, which we're gonna go through, and then there's layer blur and background blur. So, but for in this case, for this demo, let's just stick with drop shadow. Now there's an icon that looks like a sun. It's really just the settings of this drop shadow. If I hover over it, it says effect settings. Click on that, and then we see X, Y, blur, and spread. So for X and Y, let's just put 0 in. For blur, let's put 0 in because I want to show you guys something. So if I zoom in up on the shape, if I put, let's say, well, first, let me change the color of this, right? Let's change it to, I don't know, what is this? A green for promoter percentage. So let's change it to a light gray, to a green really quickly. Okay, so you can't see anything right now, but when I add 4 for X, you notice how it adds the shadow effect over to the right. And then if I add in a -4 for X, then it adds it over to the left. So if the same thing for Y, right? If I add a 4 to Y, then it adds at the bottom. And then if I add a -4 to Y, it adds at the top. So it's just a direction of the drop shadow effect. That's all it is. So let's just keep it at 4, X equals 4, Y equals 4, so we can have it just like this. Now, if I zoom in up on this shape, you notice how the drop shadow is like a solid rectangle? That's because we need to add a blur to give it that blurry effect. So the blur is 8, right? And the reason why we're choosing 8, so let me drag this drop shadow box over. The reason why we're choosing 8 is because from my experience, I've always done the addition of X and Y. So 4 is X, Y is 4. So X equals 4, Y equals 4, the 4 plus 4, and I just put 8 in. And now you see that nice blurry effect. So let's go back, and the color opacity, let's set that to 50%. So we can actually see it. It's kind of hard to see right now. And there we go. We have our first KPI drop shadow effect box. Now, we don't need to recreate it again, right? For the other 2 KPIs, like the passive percentage, like with the blue drop shadow and with the red drop shadow for detractor percent. So what we can just do is we can just click on the shape, Control C, Control V, or if you're on a Mac, Command C, Command V, and then and then change the drop shadow to go back into the drop shadow settings, change the color from green to blue, and then just copy and paste it again.
You're making this look so easy.
And change it, and then change it to change the drop shadow effect to red. Let's go with the lighter. Let's see. I think this is fine. Let's change this to 50%. Actually, no. Yeah, let's change it to 50%. It's good. Okay, cool. So we have our 3 KPIs. We have the one with green drop shadow effect, one with the blue, and one with the red. So now the next thing we need to do is add an emoji picture in a circle. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to add a shape. We're going to add an image into a circle. So I'll show you how that's done. So basically what we would do is go back to the shape tools at the top left, select the ellipse shape, the circle. So let me zoom in on this and then draw your shape, right? Just draw like a circle. And the dimension for this circle is going to be, let's say 70 by 70. So 70 width, 70 height, and align this circle. So we have our circle, align it at the top left of the box. And now we need to add in our image. So to add in an emoji image, over to the right, all we need to do is click on this plus sign. So we're going to keep our background color of the circle, right? The circle that we have, we're going to keep the color that we have right now. Let's not get rid of it. But we're just going to add, click on this plus sign, add another fill. It's going to say linear by default. Click on linear and change at the top, change the linear to image. And then you can choose an image. You can choose your image type. And let's say, what is this? Promoters is always happy. Okay. So let's choose our happy face.
Aw.
So I don't like how the color of the background of the circle is like dark gray. I want it to be the same as the KPI square. So like the background fill for this KPI that we have. So it's so the hex for that is F2, F2, F2. Let's just copy and paste that and apply for this circle and change it. And there we go.
Nice.
So we have our nice little circle emoji. So another thing I want to show you is that if I click on this image, right? You can also change the order of the fills. So right now I have image at the top and then color at the bottom. Now if I drag over F2, F2 at the top, you can't see the image because now it's in the back, right? So always have the image first and then the color background second. So that way the color background isn't overlapping the image. So now what we can do, we can just copy and paste the circle and whoops, let me copy and paste, Control C, Control V, and then put it for the other KPI, and then put it layer on top of the other KPI. So all I did was just copy and paste the images again, so I don't have to go through the formatting. So what we need to do now is just change the images, the emojis for passive percent and detractor percent. To do that, just click on the circle, the image, get rid of this one, and then let's change the image to choose image. I think it's a neutral face. Yeah, passive is always neutral. This face is so funny. Like, how can you not laugh at this?
I'm trying to make it. Like, who can actually do that?
I don't know.
I found these icons from PowerPoint. That's where I got the icons
Oh.
from. But you can also download icons from flaticon.com. It's like a really good place a website that I use all the time for
Flaticon?
Flaticon, yeah.
Okay.
And is that free?
Yeah, it's completely free.
Ah.
Cool. We've been using Noun Project, which isn't free.
I never heard of that before.
Well, you don't need to know now.
And then we can change up this last image to a very sad face. So let's go ahead and change this. There we go. We have our really nice our shapes with images in them. We have our drop shadow shapes, squares, and then the last thing we need to do is add a rectangle to for the MPS trend line chart that we have at the bottom. So to add in a rectangle, we just need to go back to the shape tools. So hover over it. It says shape tools. Select rectangle. Draw your rectangle. And then let's see. Dimension is 770 width, 360 height. So 770 width, 360 height. Let's align it a little bit to the center.
I love that feature. It just snaps into place. You don't have to.
I know. I wish Tableau had that. That would have been helpful for all the floating stuff I had in there.
Yeah.
You're a floater too?
Yeah, team float all the way.
The way to be, until you decide that your dashboard isn't the right size and you try to like size it up, and then you have to go back through and
change everything. Yeah.
Yeah, that part's horrible.
I recommend you stick your guns on your thighs before you float.
And the next thing is like adding in the corner radius. So now that we set the dimensions for this rectangle, the corner radius is 50. So at the top right, we have 0. So remember that little option that we have. So if I hover over it, it says corner radius. Let's just change it to 50. It gives it that really nice rounded edge. And the fill color for this will be white. So we want the fill color for this rectangle to be white. So let's just change it to F, 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 F. I don't know how many Fs there are. I just keep typing until it just automatically defaults to the white.
Why do I know that? Why do I know hex colors? It's weird.
Stroke effect. Okay, so the stroke effect, it sounds kind of fancy, but the stroke effect is really just the border around the shape. So here, in this on the slide, you see how there's like a border, a light gray border around this rectangle? That's what the stroke effect is. So here, let me go ahead and show you. So if I click on the shape, there's an option that says stroke. It's not effects, right? Effects is where we added the inner shadow and the drop shadows. But to add in the stroke effect, it's just click on this plus sign, and now you see how it added in that border around the shape. So that's what that stroke effect does. So we want to change the color of that stroke effect to a dark gray. So it'll be 60, 60, 60. So let's go ahead and change the hex code to 60, 60, 60. There we go. And then let's see. Okay, so now finally we need to add in 2 inner shadows. And to do that, we just go back into effects. So we added our stroke effect, right? Which is like the outside border around the shape. And now we just need to add in a inner shadow effect. So go to effects, click on this plus sign. It defaults to drop shadow, but change it to inner shadow. And let's see, we need to add 2 inner shadows. So the reason why, again, remember when I mentioned earlier that the X and the Y, it's the direction of the shadow effects. So now we need to add in 2 inner shadow effects because we want the blur, this light gray black blur, to be surrounding the entire rectangle. So let me show you. So we have the inner shadow. Let's change the X to 10, the Y to 10. The blur is just the blurriness, right? The blurriness of the shadow. So X and Y, so adding those up, it's going to be 20. So change the blur to 20. So now you see that really nice blurry effect. But notice how it's only on the one side, right? It's over to the left at the top. So let's go ahead and add another inner shadow. Change drop shadow to inner shadow. Go to the click on that sun icon settings and change it to -10 for X, -10 for Y, and then the blur will be 20. And there we go. We have that nice inner shadow effect around the entire rectangle. So that's pretty much how you set up a dashboard in Figma. And a nice thing about Figma is that you can add in fonts that are not supported by Tableau Public. So let me go ahead and show you. Let me go back to my design files and show you the finished version. So here's a finished version, right? And I heard that Jennifer's favorite font is Futura, so that's what I use for this final dashboard.
That's so awesome.
So if I click on this text, right, this text box I have on this frame, over to the right, you can change it. Right now I have Futura. You can change it to whatever font you want. You can also download your favorite font, and Figma will render it for you, and it'll show up in this drop-down menu. So it's really cool. One more thing I want to show you is that at the top left, there's an icon that says text. So if you wanted to add more text, you can just draw a text box over it. Just like PowerPoint, when you're in PowerPoint and adding text boxes, it works the same way here in Figma. So now, if you wanted to create more dashboards, okay, the trick is to just add another dashboard frame in this page. Now, this page is huge. You see this design file? Like, this is huge. I can literally zoom out of it. You can't even see it anymore. So if I click on this MPS dashboard, right, over to the left, you see how it's like a frame? It's the outer frame, right? We have the outer frame, and then the inner frame is this right here. I click on it, and it's like fine. It's inside, right? So we have 2 frames that we created. So let me just hide this. To add another frame, at the top left, click on this grid icon, click frame, and draw your frame.
So you could just have like a million.
So you can have them,
Oh,
yeah. So you can
that's
just
cool.
Control C and then Control V, Control V, Control V, Control
Oh,
V, Control V.
Oh my,
Just keep making your Makeover Monday visits in this one single page.
tip. So then you can turn, I was seeing that you have like the eye, so you can see them or not see them. You can hide the ones you're not working on, I guess. What
Yeah.
happens on
So
your layer?
you can have your frames. I think your frame. Oh yes, so you can hide them. But
Yeah,
oh yeah, you could do that too if you wanted to. I usually just what I do is I just delete them when I'm not using it no more.
that's fantastic.
But yeah,
I love it.
you could hide all the frames if you wanted to. Imagine these were your Makeover Monday visits, so you can hide all your Makeover Monday visits,
This is
and then
beautiful.
bam, we got our MPS Iron Viz
Ooh.
dashboard.
And because I love to work on like 6 projects at the same time, I could be working on the layout and
Yes. Add
Now,
a
if
little
you
something here, add a little something there.
you know,
now if you wanted to export your these dashboards
Oh.
individually, right? Then let's say, for example, we have this frame, right? Where to go? This frame. So when you have a bunch of different frames, you can export each frame individually, and it won't export the other frames. It'll just be this frame that we added, which is your dashboard, and you can add a bunch of stuff in here. And then when you export frame 2, so let's call frame 2.
all under that hierarchy, that's what gets exported.
Yeah, exactly. So
Ah,
this frame and the hierarchy, like what all the elements in this frame will get exported. Not this MPS dashboard. For here, let's go ahead and click on MPS final. Let me delete all these frames for now. I think it's slow. So we have MPS dashboard final, and over to the right, we can export this frame either as a PNG, JPEG, SVG, or PDF. Let's just go with PNG for now. You could change the resolution type again, but let's just stick with 1x. I usually stick with 1x all the time. Now, it says here like what you're exporting. So it says export MPS dashboard final, and that's exactly what we have, right? The outer frame. So you can also see the preview, what it looks like. So let's go ahead and
Just in
download it.
case you have NPS dashboard 3, 4, 5, and they're all different colors or something, you can have a little preview right there to be like, oh no, this is the one that I want.
Yeah, exactly. And you can also look at the name here, like it will say like export MPS dashboard number 3. You know what I mean?
if you're good about naming them.
Right.
I'm pretty bad at naming. I usually go underscore final 1 underscore final 2
Yeah,
underscore final 3.
Exactly.
Completely rename it. 1, 2, 3, and 4 seems.
Which is why that preview is awesome, because if you had underscore final, it's not going to show in the text.
Yeah,
Right?
right.
But here, like we have like our we just downloaded, so we see in the preview, and then we downloaded it, and here's what the download looks like. So if I click on it, it shows up on my other screen. So let me drag it over, and here we go. We have our really awesome dashboard, but we're not done yet. Okay, so let me go into Tableau. What we're going to do now is we're going to export this into Tableau, like how it looks right here. So let me make a new dashboard, completely new dashboard. And we're going to set the dashboard width and height to whatever the outer frame was. So remember the outer frame, the width was 1200 and the height was 1200. And then what we're going to do is we're going to select tiled at the bottom. So just floating is tiled. So we're going to choose tiled, and then we're going to click on our image object and drag it over to the dashboard. Now it prompts you to enter an image. We click choose, and then the dashboard that we just exported is MPS dashboard final 1. I've already exported another one, so that's why it's saying 1. So click apply, but if you want to, you can also center the image. I don't really do that all the time, but if it doesn't really hurt, right? You can center the image. Yeah. let's just go ahead and click center image. But so let's apply the image, click OK, and here's what our dashboard looks like. But one thing I want to make a note of is that when you export this image, right, you notice how the padding is still like, it's like the padding is increased outside of the image. So you'll still see white outside the image. To make this dashboard fit, what you need to do is click outside of this image, go to layout, and set the outer padding to 0, not 8, whatever, so that it actually fits. So click on the image then, and then change the 4 to 0. And there you go. See how it's like nice and fit on the dashboard?
Get out of here, padding.
I know, the padding is always frustrating.
Because you never know where. Yeah.
Oh, and one more thing. Delete the phone layout. I always forget that. Go to dashboard, phone, and then delete the layout.
I was just talking to somebody the other day about that. I'm like, it's obnoxious. Can we just default to it not being there?
Yeah.
Tableau.
So, and that's pretty much it for making a dashboard in Figma and exporting into Tableau. It's still Tableau, and all we're using Figma for is to enhance the style of the dashboard design. And there's a lot of folks in the Tableau community, right, that still use Figma really well to enhance their dashboard designs. So if I go back to the slides, here we go. So here are two viz examples from Tableau Zen Master Lindsay Betzendahl. I absolutely love her work in the community, and these two vizzes are extremely well done and are solid examples of how Figma can really enhance your visual designs. So definitely give Lindsay a follow on Twitter. Chimdi Nwosu is a regular participant in the Makeover Monday Tableau community, and his work is just awesome, right? Chimdi has been sharing a lot of cool Figma style vizzes in the Tableau, and I'm always blown away by his fantastic skills and Makeover Monday submissions. So please also give Chimdi a follow on Twitter and check out his Tableau public portfolio.
Yeah, he kind of did what we just did with the boxes on the top with the little outer layer shadow.
Yeah.
I know how to spot Figma. I feel so excited.
Yeah.
And you just kind of like open my eyes with looking at Lindsay. I feel like I've looked at all of these works that people put out without really understanding the use of Figma and where Figma was used. But now the idea of you could even create your graphs, pull them into Figma to annotate and design around the group.
Yeah.
I actually didn't know at first, to be honest. Like when I was starting out in Figma, I didn't know that you can have like an outer frame, right, and an inner frame, the way like when I demoed it. But then later on, when I started seeing other folks' works in the community, like Chimdi, I was like, oh, okay, all right. So I guess I can start adding in that outer frame and go like fancy with it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is fantastic. I think the examples really kind of for me,
Yeah.
like these are things I've looked at before, but it wasn't really resonating. Okay.
And then lastly, you know, we have like Priya Padam, who I did a collaborative viz with, looking at the matrix. Priya also has done a lot of great work in Tableau using Figma to enhance her dashboard designs. I mean, I love all of her visits on Tableau Public, and here are a few from Priya's portfolio where she used Figma really well. And definitely give her a follow on Twitter. So that wraps up my presentation. I really hope this was helpful for anyone who's looking to start using Figma as a design tool for their Tableau projects or any other design projects you're working on. Thanks so much to Danushki and Jennifer for having me on Her Data. It's been really fun.
Yay, thank you. You're so awesome. I love this.
Yeah, and you didn't like show us anything like, you know, like crazy that would take us like days to do. You showed us something super easy that we can implement in any dashboard, whether it's an Iron Viz or a business dashboard, honestly. So yeah, you made it look really easy.
I'm really excited to use this. There are some things that I probably will be using today, if only you know. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your time putting this together and making Figma seem not so bad. I kind of wish, like secretly, I had recorded myself trying to use Figma for the first time and shared that with you before you presented, because if you only knew the sparks that were flying right now. So thank you again.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.